Hello friends, it's Kayla. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Today is actually the kickoff of 12 Days of Lalamas. This is 12 videos in 12 days. I think I'm gonna do 12 this year. I think I can commit to that. The first one, I love to kick it off on Christmas with my final vlog of the year. And at this point, there are 9 days left in my reading year, and I have read 261 books. I feel nothing towards this number. I don't think it's a good number, a bad number. I have no feelings towards it, except the fact that it doesn't look good in a graphic. And there are no numbers between 261 and 270 that also look good in the graphic. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I post this at the end of every year. This is the one from 2023, where I organize it by colors, and you can scroll through my Instagram and you can see how they're all laid out. There's like a red page, a yellow page, a brown page, and 261 just like it doesn't work here. Neither do any other numbers up to 270. So just like last year, I am gonna hit that 270, and to do that, I need to read a book a day for the next 9 days. Now I agree, the concept sounds stupid. It's trivial. It's silly to read a certain amount of books to hit a certain number, especially when I don't actually care about the number. But the fact is, I probably would read this amount of books anyway. So I'm just turning it into a concept vlog. So people can click on it, the ones who get angry about people who are reading for inauthentic reasons and are reading for the aesthetics. Yes, I am. Today, finally, after 10 years of being on BookTube, you can accuse me of reading for the aesthetics. This is what my current graphic looks like for the year, and you can see certain spots are missing. You might wonder, like, why those specific spots are the gaps. It's because I do put them into all of these squares throughout the year. As I read books, I slot them into their spaces throughout the month to make sure that, or at the end of every month, to make sure I don't forget anything. And the thing about these is you can see there's a red spot missing. However, if you look at, say, if I pull up my brown page, there's also a couple missing from here, but I could easily pull something that feels a little bit red and fill out the red one if I wanted to. And that's what I would be doing if I was just reading at my normal pace, like the next 9 books that I just happened to read. I would just figure it out. I'd finagle things. I'd put something from the black and white page into the blue page because there's a little bit of blue. There's actually quite a bit of red in my black and white page, but I never have enough red books to have 2 red pages. So here's what I'm missing. I'm missing something from the red category, which is perfect because it's a Christmas season and I want to read something Christmassy. I'm missing 2 spots from the brown category, which I actually think is fine because the Pantone color of the year just got revealed and it's brown. And maybe I can find something on my TBR that's the exact same brown as the Pantone brown. Then I'm missing 2 things from green, which is also fine because green could be Christmas. I also have to read Jade City by the end of the month because it's my members pick of December. It's my final one of the year. So that one will be slotted in there just fine. I'm missing 2 from my like blue and teal page. I have one idea of what I'm gonna slot in there. And then I have 2 spots open on my like all the colors page. This is where there's too many colors on a cover to put it into one specific category. So there are 9 open slots, and I'm just gonna bring you along with me for the next 9 days. I'm gonna vlog everything that I read to put onto their proper pages. First, I actually have to do some book shopping. And I asked you on Instagram what your favorite Christmas reads are because I struggle to find good ones. I think that Christmas books are great holiday books, but they seem to fulfill just like a cute little niche a lot of the time. And they're not anybody's absolute favorite. When I look at people's favorites of the year, there's never a Christmas book, right? They're never that good. And I want some actual good ones. So I asked, and I'm gonna look in a little bit and see what you've suggested to me because I think I could probably grab a couple and put them into these slots. So this vlog is gonna be about accomplishing some reading goals, reading some seasonal things. Oh, speaking of reading goals, I also have to read Ice Planet Barbarians this week because it's my smut of the month pick, which is a book club that is dead in the water, but I am gonna finish it out strong because I've read all of the other picks. So I guess that will go on my blue page. Also, not to make this intro too long, I filmed my reaction to my Spotify Wrapped, not knowing what I would do with that footage, if anything, and I think I want to pick a book based off of that. So while I go do some Christmas shopping and book shopping right now, I'll insert that footage and then I'll check in with you about what I've decided to do with the results of that. I have no clue what video this would possibly end up in, but I just wanted to react to my Spotify Wrapped on camera in case anything interesting comes of it or I want to make a video out of it. There's no question what my #1 artist is going to be. That's Chase Atlantic because I discovered them like halfway through the year prior. They're now like my favorite band currently. And I have a gym playlist where like I use my walking pad for 45 minutes every morning, or I did like the first 6 months of the year. And I sometimes listen to audiobooks, but more often than not, I'm listening to Chase Atlantic. So like that playlist is probably going to be all of my top songs. But hopefully there's some other things within the Wrapped that'll be fun to look at like last year. You listened to oh my God, look how I could have listened to 1 more minute and I would have been at 26,000 minutes. Okay. My top song was Cold Nights by Chase Atlantic. You were in the top 0.005 of listeners globally. Is that the most specific it gets? My top songs are Cold Nights by Chase Atlantic, Too Late by Chase Atlantic, Numb to the Feeling by Chase Atlantic, Slow Down by Chase Atlantic, and Lust by Chase Atlantic. I'm not surprised that their new album didn't show up here because it didn't come out until November, but I've been listening to it so much that I thought maybe it would. Okay, I've got my music evolution. April was your smooth softcore alternative R&B phase. I'm only laughing because it says you're really into artists like Chase Atlantic, Platinum, and Xavier Maine, only because Platinum and Xavier Maine were features on Chase Atlantic songs. May was my Acadian indie folk season. That's just because that's the month that I was reading the most physically, and I always had my Spotify playlist going on, and all the songs listed here are on that like quiet reading playlist. Okay, and then they give you 1 more month. Bougie Football Rap. Future 21 Savage and Travis Scott. That's because July was road trip time, and that's what we were listening to in the car because that's also Liam's favorite. Chase Atlantic was your top artist. You are a top 0.05 fan. Okay, that's not as high as I would have liked, but I'll take it. Your top artist, Chase Atlantic, Travis Scott, Future, Don Toliver, 21 Savage. Makes sense. A video from Chase Atlantic. Thanks for coming. That's it? Wow, okay. I was actually wondering if like the tech layoffs of the year would impact Spotify Wrapped, and I can't say for sure that that's what it is, but last year's was so much more involved. We didn't get specific genres, like top genres. We didn't get like a personality trait like last year when I got Vampire. There was no Sound City or whatever it was. There wasn't very many, in fact, the graphics of that, I think are kind of ugly. Today is what we're gonna call Green Day. It's the green day of the vlog. It is indeed now December 16th, and therefore I only have 8 more days until my reading is cut off. And I didn't read anything yesterday. So now I have to read 9 books in 8 days, but that's fine because, hello? Because I got some short things. I don't want to spoil my entire TBR at this point, but what I will say is I came up with an idea for the Chase Atlantic inspired one. I was gonna go with the artist, but I decided to go with the song. So I looked at my TBR on Goodreads to see any books that I had that had cold or nights in the title, and there were a few night ones to choose from. In fact, the ones that I was going between were both by or edited by Lindy Ryan. So I figured Winter Nights is this horror winter anthology and I could read a story every day. But then I also saw this one called Cold Snap. And this is the perfect example of multiple colors. Like, would I put this on the red page or the blue page? Oh, sorry, the anthology was called The Darkest Night. My bad. It could go on the red page, but I have an idea for the red page because I got your ideas on Instagram and it confirmed for me that I do want to read Everyone This Christmas Has a Secret, which is one that was already on my TBR shelf. It's a novella. This is a novella. I think I have the perfect plans, including for today, the Green Day. Oh my God, this matching situation, out of this world. This is the best way to kick off the vlog because some of the other ones are going to be questionable as far as fitting perfectly in their color stories. But this one, this is the one. It's so green. And I've heard of this. I think it was on the New York Times most recommended books of the century or whatever. Oh my God. Wait, they must have reprinted this just to have this on it. New York Times Top 100 Book of the 21st Century. It's also Oprah's book club pick for 2024. Shortlisted for the Booker Prize. This is by Claire Keegan. Small Things Like These is something I've heard of, I've seen around. I have no idea what it's about, and I didn't ever notice that it's a wintry scene. And so this popping up in the suggestions was really surprising to me, but it was mentioned so many times. In fact, more than 10 times. So for the people who are asking to see the recommendations, I did post a story of the ones that I myself have read and co-signed. There was only a few of them because like I told you, I haven't found any incredible Christmas stories. I think I've only given a 4-star, unless there's something I'm just not thinking of. And then this story, I listed the ones that were mentioned more than 10 times that I myself haven't read yet. I'm not going to be reading everything from this list, but I am going to read 3. 2 I already showed you, and the next one you'll see later. I actually picked a couple of romances not on this list, but because these were ones that showed up at least 10 times in the recommendations. There was a couple that were only recommended like 3 or 4 times that I felt like could fit aesthetically for this video and that I myself would be interested in. So I also have like some romance coming. One other thing I need to talk about aesthetically is the fact that I have had exactly 31 5 stars this year, and that number is so close to being a good enough number to do the video that I did at the end of last year when I was figuring out my favorites of the year and I was ranking my favorites. I really liked doing that bracket, but I want to talk it through. Like, should I do that again? I personally need to do it to figure out my favorites because I've had 31, so I can put 16 and 15 against each other, and then they like go through the bracket and we figure out my favorites, because I don't even know after my top 4 like what is even going to be in that top 10. I need to have one more thing, so it's 16 and 16, and there's 32, and they can battle properly, so I don't have to go in the depths of my reads and try to find a 4.5 to include. And it's like, which 4.5 do I include of all the 4.5s? Now the stakes feel high for this video because I need to find one more 5-star, and I hope you watch it happen. Is it gonna be one of the things I'm reading on the green day? I'm gonna start this. I don't believe it's reasonable to think I will read the entirety of Jade City today. It's 500 pages, but I'll start it today. It'll bleed into tomorrow, and maybe I'll be doing this one on audio while reading this one physically. That could be a good combo for me. Liam is at school for only 3 hours today because he's sick. Not sick enough to stay home. He's just like has some leftover coughing and breathing issues, which means he can't go to like gym class, hockey. Something I didn't actually mention, for all of you checking in on him, thank you so much. It's so kind to know that you care about his health and wellness. I didn't mention it in the video because I thought I talked about it earlier, but he actually had COVID. He had COVID a week prior to the viral infection. So they're calling it, everyone who's saying like where it came from or offering advice or saying what the culprit might be, his doctors are just calling it a like weird side effect of COVID. But it's all cleared up now. Like, it's totally cleared up. Everything is fine. The medication did exactly what it was supposed to do. And thank goodness he's feeling like 80% better. Before I pick him up in 2 hours, am just gonna read the entirety of this, I guess. And I'll check in with you halfway once I actually know what it's about. This is turning out to be the exact book that I should be reading today. It's like about the bitter winter, the cold weather. It's talking about the snow. It hasn't snowed here in like 2 weeks. And then as I was reading this, sitting so comfy, it's like my hat looks so weird. How are you supposed to wear a hat? Like, why do I not know? But I was sitting in my nice cozy living room and it was just the perfect winter scene. The snowflakes just started to fall and it's the like light snow that just looks like everything's covered in powdered sugar. It is about the depth of this cold and like how cold it is and how people are struggling, but it also had this warm vibe to it. We're following this man who runs a company responsible for like coal and wood and delivering stuff. He came from an upbringing that his mother was like a teen when she had him and he didn't have a lot, and he was brought into this house that his mother worked for them, and he was raised that way. He lost his mother, and now he has 5 children and a wife, and he loves them all so much and wants to give them everything that he could never have. And there was just this scene of him and his wife like reading their daughter's letters to Santa and what they wanted for Christmas. It was just so like warm, and I was like, okay, I get what the story is. It's just about like appreciating your family and your life. And then it says it in the synopsis, Bill makes a discovery at the local convent. That's at the exact halfway point. He goes and makes a delivery and finds a woman who is in a bad situation. I've only got 60 pages in because I started actually listening to the audiobook of Jade City while I was editing something. So I didn't finish this before picking up Liam, but I will, now that I'm picking him up, I'll head home and I'll wrap it up. This was an excellent little book. I definitely see why it's resonated for so many people, has landed well, has you know, been nominated for things and chosen to discuss. Totally get it. I'm giving it a 4. It ends perfectly, but it ends with like a decision. And I think that's a really interesting choice to make, that this could be an entire novel. This could be an entire story on its own of what happens after this choice is made. There's just so much understated. It's so subtle. It doesn't really dive into descriptions, not about a lot of stuff, but also not a lot of feelings. It's just people existing and things happening. It's like the opposite. It's showing, not telling. It's when you complain about books that just like tell you all this stuff about people, this doesn't tell you anything. It just shows you. It just exemplifies like somebody crying, and you have to put together context clues to why someone's doing this, why someone might be acting this way. And it's interesting how all of the characters interact and what this man just decides to do. You can imagine so many futures from here. It's definitely a book that leaves you with pondering what's to come, but like doesn't need to tell you. It's just people like looking after each other, thinking about each other. It gives me the feelings of a kind of classic Christmas movie, the ones that had really heavy-handed messaging, that you have a clear idea of how it wants you to feel. I know there's an adaptation of this. I've never watched any like trailers or anything, but maybe I'll check it out. Not today though. I am moving on to Jade City. Wish me luck with that. We met a lot of characters at the beginning and got to begin to understand how the Jade like magic system works. I know this is so many people's like favorite series, and so I want to take my time with it and really get to know the characters, because I imagine maybe that's why they love it. But there were so many ideas in just the very beginning. I read the first, I think, 5%, and there were already like a scene was already ending, and we moved into something completely different, and then moved into something completely different, and getting to understand like who is in charge and who has these powers and how they use the powers, and who is trying to get the jade and what they can do with it, what other people can't do with it, how you can like sense if it's around. It just dropped you into things, which I appreciate for the pace. And now I'm gonna really lock into the audio experience. Oh, terrible lighting. Okay, I'm just headed to bed, and I wanted to update you that I'm a third of the way into Jade City. I don't think that my mind is in a place that can fully enjoy intricate fantasy. That's the excuse I'm gonna give, because I just like don't care. I'm learning a lot. I know all the characters now, and I don't care. It really depends on the book, apparently, if I'm into like the political maneuverings and all of that stuff. And in this one, I feel like I'm grasping it well enough. Who's making what decisions and who has to do what job to figure what out about the jade dealings. I tried the physical version in case that's what it was. I was paying attention, the audiobook. I was paying attention with it physically. Neither is like a better experience, so I'm just continuing with it audibly so I can get stuff done, like general cleaning, I don't know. But yeah, I don't have an update because I don't want to say I don't care again. I just have no feelings towards this book. I don't care to be reading it, but I'll finish it. Maybe I'll like take a couple days. I'll read some other things in between. So you will see my review for this next, but in real life, my timeline, not your timeline, I'm gonna move on to the next color because I feel a reading slump could be upon us if I don't. Hey! Yes, it is Christmas Eve. I have waited until the 11th hour to talk to you about Jade City. I finished this a couple days ago, and I have yet to come up with any good reasoning of why I'm giving it the rating that I am. Any good explanation that would satisfy people who've been waiting for me to read this. I didn't love it. I think I can appreciate things about it. I just broke my nail. But I'm gonna land on a 3, and I'm really disappointed in myself for not enjoying it. That's the feeling that I'm left with. is like, why didn't this one work for me? And I didn't update at all while reading because it took me until halfway to really grasp like what the story was. And then for the second half, I felt kind of checked out because I didn't care at that point. And I don't know if I gave the book my fullest attention for that second half. And so I've been thinking the last couple days since I finished it, should I reread sections? Should I don't know. I just need to come on here and I just need to tell you my rating so we can get on to the rest of the video. It's a 3. I think Fonda Lee has such a great mind. She has such interesting ideas, and clearly the magic system created with the power that Jade can give is very well thought out, very detailed. And also just her concept around the world building outside of the fantasy aspects is very well thought out. The things she wants to talk about regarding power structures and class dynamics, the storylines that are used to represent, like I would say toxic masculinity and drug addiction and corruption. It was very evident what she wanted to do with this story. I was surprised by how little it was actually about the magic and the jade. Like, people are fighting over it and that's what drives a lot of the plot, but it wasn't as much about it as I thought it would be. And I say that while appreciating the description that was there. It was very atmospheric, very clear. But it was just so much more family drama than I was expecting. And I've established recently that's not really my favorite type of storyline in most books. There was a lot of fighting, and I think that would make for great montage moments in an adaptation. This is something I think my husband would really like to read and watch. I think what made me feel not connected to it is the characters. There were so many different people and POVs, and I think I was waiting to try to understand who I was meant to care about. And while I can appreciate by the end that these characters were really complex and she didn't necessarily give us like, this person is bad and this person is good. It was like, there was a lot of dynamics. I did want my hand held a little bit more as the reader of who I was supposed to care about as every POV was introduced. Or I would have liked to just be from one perspective, regardless of the type of person they're meant to be. Good person, bad person, morally gray, whatever. Like, I would have liked to just follow one, I think. And this to me seems like a good setup, honestly, for a series. And everyone says that the later books are even better. And I totally can see that with what's being set up now and how she might alter like what she offers to the reader as far as the characters, and lets us in on more things, test the waters with the types of personality she wants to give people and the things that they're going to do within the books. So that's why I'm giving it a 3. The setup is interesting, atmosphere, the writing itself, solid. She didn't pull off making me care about anybody or what was actually going down, while I could appreciate like the actual world building and messages that I think are being introduced. And I would tell you like my favorite characters and impactful scenes, but I honestly like have forgotten some of them since finishing this and didn't leave a lasting impression, which is a real bummer for me. And I am wondering like if it's me, if this just was something I shouldn't have read at this time. Like, I can't imagine myself loving it more reading it at any other time, but I do question myself with that. Like, was I just not fully present enough to read something so intricate? So I'm so sorry for anybody who's been waiting for updates and was hoping that I would share along the way like things that were really impactful, but I just never felt a reason. Like, I didn't tab a single thing. I didn't flag a single moment. It was one of those situations where I just felt like I was there. I was just being told a story and I was along for the ride. It was like watching a movie. That's it for the green days. And I will fill it out now and pop them in. And I'm happy that the page looks good, even if I don't have a lot to bring to the discussion around Jade City. Love you. See you in the next one.
Blue pill, won't you help me calm down? The green pill doesn't really do shit.
It barely gets me higher than this music. I practiced. Oh, it's Blue Day. Woo! Welcome to Blue Day. I practiced. I did a test upload of this video with all of the intro music clips, and I didn't get dinged for copyright. So I think you successfully just heard like a good couple seconds of Chase Atlantic. So shout out to that. Although I don't support drug use. I don't know what pills they're talking about. Don't worry about it. The song I'm using for the brown title screen also has to do with guns, so prepare yourselves for that. It's Blue Day, and I'm reading Ice Planet Barbarians and hating it. I started the audiobook maybe a week ago, and I think I got a third of the way in at that point and just could not stand listening to it. It's not about the narration. I think it's just like the content I don't really want to be reading anyway, and so listening to it was making it worse. So I'm now reading it physically. For a book that is smutty and sexy and about this like romantic relationship between this human girl and this alien creature, it started out so disgusting. Like, I don't understand why I was reading about piss and shit and vomit and all of these girls. Like, I do get it because it had to set the scene. All of these humans were kidnapped by these aliens, and then the aliens left them on this planet, and they're gonna come back for them. And in the meantime, the girls in the spaceship are like, we have to escape, we have to survive, let's figure it out. And we have our main character, Georgie. I'm now remembering why the audiobook was killing me, because we would get perspective from the alien Vectel and him pronouncing Georgie because they don't speak the same language. Just listening, I don't know, listening to it was driving me crazy. So basically she's the only one that can get out of the spaceship and is going to look for food or whatever, and she gets she gets like held captive kind of by this creature who finds her, discovers her, and just starts eating her out. Sorry. So she like wakes up and she's like, what the fuck? Oh, actually, like, this feels great. And that's their introduction to each other. And he decides that she is now his mate because that, you know, that it just worked out. Like, how nice for them both. I wasn't gonna get dinged for copyright, and now I'm gonna get dinged for my language. Please, YouTube gods, keep this monetized. There were a lot of descriptions about his situation. He's very different and special and not like anything she's witnessed before. And so she's getting it on, but she's like, I have to save my girls in the spaceship who are literally dying and starving and injured and covered in their own shit. She's reluctant for sure, and he's very committed to being her guy. And like, why did I do that? Why did I decide on the Smut of the Month Club? Like, what was that about me this year that I was just like, I'm gonna read all of these smutty books. Half the books weren't even smutty. I thought that it was gonna be fun. I'm gonna be able to like turn off my brain and just have a good time, not take it too seriously. Or it's gonna be fun in the way that I get to roast it and talk shit about it and we all get to rant about this stupid book. It's neither of those things. It's like not offensive enough to rant about, but it's not good. Ooh, it's not good. Since I'm reading this physically, I again wanna have an audiobook going. Here's the idea that I originally had, because here's the thing. When I talked about goal setting, I had this in mind because at the beginning of the year, I put out this 24 and 24, and I have read all of them except for, it's like 24 books, backlist books that I want to read in the year. The only ones I haven't read are the anthologies. They're all down the left side. And the thing is, I had a video plan. Like I was gonna do a video every month or read a short story every month. And I was gonna read a short story every day of 2024. That was a weird time that I decided I was gonna do that. And then I got COVID like on January 1st, and I didn't really want to read anything. So I failed at my whole experiment in the very first week. I wasn't reading them just because I wanted to read them. So there's anthologies on here that I don't want to read. I don't want to read right now. I have so many collections, and I've already read so many this year. I've read so many average short story collections and anthologies that I don't want to. So this was my plan. This was gonna fit into the blue and teal page. The Winter Spirits, Ghostly Tales of Frosty Nights. It sounds totally up my alley. I don't want to read it. I accidentally read 2 short story collections last week, and I'm done. So I have failed my 2024 challenge. We have to watch, you and I both have to watch me fail at something. But now I get to pick something new in blue, and I have no idea what it's gonna be. I actually have quite a few blue books up here. Let's raise up. Rise up. Oh! I Don't ask me how, but I stepped on this. Why was I even lifting my foot that high off the ground? Oh, that hurt. Here's what I have for blue books. I have Private Rights. This would perfectly fit on that blue and teal page. I have All This and More. I'm just thinking about 2024 releases because I haven't read enough of them, but I think I have a plan to read that one next year. I also have It Will Only Hurt for a Moment, which is like turquoisey. And since I haven't read the first chapter of any of them. Oh, wait. I also have the Book of Doors. I don't have this physically. I don't know if it's better for me to read something off my TBR, like that'll feel more like accomplishing goals, but I also want to read the first chapter of Book of Doors because I wanted to read it for the Goodreads Choice Awards. I'll do the first chapter of these two and then also that one. Hopefully it's on Spotify and then I'll get back to you. Sound good? So we obviously all knew this wasn't going to be my taste, but I thought it would at least be fun. But like it was bad and not even fun. I didn't have a good time with this at all at any point. I just thought all these characters were annoying and the world building was terrible. And I guess like there was a lot of sex and like that wasn't like the worst written scenes I've ever read. So there's that. If I go on Goodreads, some of my friends have reviewed this 5 stars and said like, oh, the writing was surprisingly good. And then some of my friends give it 1 star and go, this was some of the worst writing I've ever read. And it's like, the fact that we can't even agree in 2024 of what good writing is, I just like, how do we recover from this? I struggled to finish this. I thought it was silly. And like, obviously it's meant to be silly. I just think there's a world in which this was readable and it's not the world that I was in. Do I give it a 1 or do I give it a 2? I don't actually feel like I hated it. There was nothing really good about it. I'm gonna give it a 2. Now, I was gonna review all the first chapters and discuss them with you. However, I just remembered I'm reading 9 books in this video and I don't want it to be 2 hours. So I read the first chapter of all the things. I'm sticking with Book of Doors. The other 2 were just fine and I still want to read them. Book of Doors was really intriguing and I wish I had the physical book and I'm gonna try not to go buy it tomorrow. I didn't really know that much going into it. I can't remember how much I actually read into it. I thought it was like one of those stories where it's a woman who is kind of down in life, and because people compared it to Matt Haig and various other things that I've enjoyed, where there's like a woman who's struggling and she finds some type of magical thing where she's like time traveling or traveling around the world through these doors and like finds a reason to go on. Basically, that's not what's happening. The first section or chapter were from different perspectives, which I was not expecting. We got introduced to this character who worked at this place, and there's a guy there who always comes in and shops for books, and he was, he died. Is that a spider? She's at work, this guy dies in front of her who is a regular customer and leaves her this book. And I think, I haven't read too much further on, but I think probably what's happening is there's all of these magic books and he had to maybe, like once he chose who he was gonna pass his magic book onto, then he died. Like that's the end of his cycle. And now it becomes her book. And basically what she can do, that was my opinion. Now the facts are she can open a door and it'll open into whatever door in the world she has been to before that she's thinking about. So if she's holding the book and she opens a door, she can open it to like Rome if she's been there, and I think it's places she has to have been there. And she introduces her friend to it, and her friend is like, this is so crazy, they're just trying to figure out what's going on. He doesn't tell her that's what the book is, but she uncovers that for herself. And in another universe, this is the kind of story where it's about these friends. Maybe it's still going to be, but it felt like an introduction that was like one of the friends could easily take advantage of the situation. One of the friends steals the book, or like they have an argument about who should do what, or should they keep it a secret? Who's gonna like abuse their power? But swiftly we change into a different perspective of some other person who is trying to find all of these magical books. So there's like the book of memories, the book of I can't think of any other examples, but they're like these magical things and people want to collect the books, and some people are doing bad things with it, some people are doing good things with it. So it started out as kind of Midnight Library vibes, and now it's more into like Shadow of the Wind, honestly like Call Down the Hawk kind of vibes, where there's all of these different people and they all have this intention with this magic. So I'm interested to see what other perspectives we get, because there was another one. I think I'm guessing each of those was a different chapter. We've met 3 different people, and I'm wondering if we're gonna get back to the guy who originally left the book and learn about his past with it, learn where the books came. Like, I'm just so intrigued to know what I'm about to learn. But that first section, just with the main character, whose name I definitely can't remember right now, had me, one of the girls started with a P, and one of them started with an I think it was like Isabella and Piper or something. So I'm gonna keep listening to the audiobook, and I guess tomorrow, the blue day continues. Welcome to another blue day. The day doesn't feel very blue. The sun is doing incredible things, just in the world and for my mood. Also though, I think it's the point of my cycle that I'm in, which is actually a concept I really want to dive into in 2025, and I'm excited to talk to you about it. I've just had like all the energy in the world the past 3 days, and while I was filming my Q&A yesterday, it's literally going live right now, literally right now, 2 o'clock. When I was filming it, I was like, I have so much more energy than I often have while filming sit down videos. And like, what if I only film sit down videos at a certain point in the month? Anyway, what else did I do today? Like, today's just like my day. I got all the laundry done. I'm back on my consistent walking pad mornings, which feel great. So I did that this morning. There's just like way too much snow, and I'd be slipping and sliding everywhere. I got my entire video edited. I got Liam to school. I'm gonna go pick him up. I'm gonna get groceries. I'm gonna cook dinner. I got some video planning done. I vacuumed. I guess like when I say today's my day, the bar is pretty low. I just feel like I accomplished so much more by 2 p.m. than I usually do. And I've been listening to the audiobook of the book that I've been listening to and really enjoying it. So that's a win. Also, one of Liam's Christmas presents just arrived in the mail. Can you guess what it is? Book of Doors is really interesting to me. There's not too many perspectives. It hasn't gotten confusing. Our main character's name is actually Cassie, and her friend's name is Izzy. And there are people out there who are endangering them, and there are people who are trying to protect them. So there is this wider world, the concept of these books and the magic that they do and who wants control over them. I mean, it would be everybody if everybody knew about them. I don't actually know how far into the audiobook I am, because Spotify doesn't give you percentages, but I'm at track 28 of 70. There's no way I'm not even halfway. I mean, the chapter sizes might vary, but it often feels like in the audiobook that we're wrapping up a story. Like, this could be a short story. Things could be concluding way simply, but I'm liking the journey that we're on. I feel like this is going to be a 4 by the end. There's a chance that it's a 5, considering I still have half the book to go. But there's one thing that I feel like there is a question being presented that has an answer, or we could get to that answer. I'm assuming we're going to get to that answer later, but the fact that it's not occurring to people to do this certain thing with the book and go ask this question that would answer the question by this point in the book, that hasn't like occurred to anybody, seems strange. But perhaps if that's the entire point of the book, then we just have to wait a while for that to happen, because when that happens, maybe the book would end. Anyway, I'm gonna go continue my very productive day, and I'll catch you at the end of it. The final blue day has finally come to an end, and my thoughts on this book are so just at war with each other, because this book was too long. It was far too long. And I could have given it a 5 if it was 150 pages shorter. At a third of the way through and 2/3 of the way through, it felt like certain storylines were wrapping up. The times that you were learning things, and when it felt like there was nothing that was going to move us into the next scene, it felt like the book was slowing down, and it was like, okay, well, what's the next thing that's going to happen? And then it would take so long after something concluded to introduce the next idea, even though everything in it was interesting. The writing was good. This is a debut, I'm pretty sure, and I was really impressed by it. As far as the idea, like, I wish I could talk more about it. This should be like a book club pick for somebody, so I'm sure it is, so they can dive into what the book's actually doing, because it's so interesting. And there's a cyclical nature that I always talk about I love in books, and I'm frustrated by the fact that this wasn't a 5 because it had all of the makings of a 5-star read for me. I left the book feeling really similarly to how I felt when I finished Ascension, or I finished, what is it, Dead 11, where it on paper is such a book for me and reveals were so much for me, but just the actual structuring of the novel was frustrating to read. I'm actually going to talk myself into a 3.75, maybe a 3.5. It was very evidently written by a man writing from the perspective of a woman who certain things that he's saying about her body, like, just didn't come across my favorite way. Certain like characters were villainous, but it was just like too easy. It was a little too cheap. The way that they would behave, and there was like some bigoted things in there that make sense for the character and the historical context, but like weren't enjoyable to read and weren't the most necessary. And at that 2/3 of the way through, the thing that I was wondering why we hadn't gotten to, it happened. There was also a devastating moment at that 2/3 of the way in, and I can't stop thinking about the fact that the book really needed to end, and the last third could have just happened so much quickly, like already in the book that I already read. We could have understood so many things, and I have to dance around the plot because like a huge portion of what this book actually is and what it means to open doors to different places, I think is considered a spoiler. There's a lot of action scenes, but it doesn't feel like an action book. There's a lot of speculative concepts, but it doesn't really feel like a speculative book. It feels just general fiction until the moments happen that are like wild and crazy. I don't know. It was just, something was off about it, but I still think it was good. I'm still looking for that 5-star, and I'm starting to think it's not gonna happen.
There's no rainbows, just white lines.
So of course, today is about the colors that don't necessarily go together. They might look nice together, but they don't fit in one solid graphic page together. And one of the top books that was recommended by Instagram is The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ali Carter. I don't think I had ever really heard of this before this week, because maybe it just came out or people are just reading it around Christmas time. I've never read from this author. I've definitely never been intrigued by anything else that she's come out with. And so I have gone into this completely unaware. I knew absolutely nothing, and I haven't read the synopsis yet, so I'm intrigued to know if what was so shocking to me at like chapter 8 is as shocking as it should have been. But we're following these two like enemies. It's one of those situations where it's gonna be enemies to lovers, but like the guy never really knew they were enemies to begin with. So it's a woman who just like really doesn't like this guy. He's rubbed her the wrong way in the workplace, and she hates him, and then they're forced together, and he's like, oh, what? Like, he's like flirting with her as if everything's chill, but she's like seething. What I love about this so far is it's about authors. So exciting. I had no idea. I opened it and suddenly we're reading about like mystery authors and how they are writing for the same publishing house, but she does more a certain type of mystery and he does a certain type of mystery, and she is in love with this author. And it was just, okay, I need to read this now because I'm assuming it says, it does say in here because it makes sense. They're invited to this manor, like super rich fan is how it's pitched to them. Is like, you are invited for Christmas to one of your biggest fans' houses in like the English countryside or whatever. And so they just get on this private plane and they go. And when they get there, they realize it is our main character's favorite author. And I was shocked. I was like, oh, no way, they showed up and it's her favorite author. And I feel like it was really subtle because I didn't see it coming, and it's not like it was her favorite author was talked about that much, but it was clear she had this favorite author she loved. And so they show up, they're both like invited separately, they don't really know each other at all, they don't know if the other person is going. They have a little bit of banter on the plane over, and then when they arrive, that's where I'm at. Like, I don't really know anything that's to happen from here, but there is this insertion of interviews on Christmas where they're going like, what happened at the manor, tell us everything that went down. So there's obviously a mystery, a death that is going to occur, but also it's like a rom-com at the same time. That's why I picked it, is when people were submitting their answers, a couple included like, just so you know, it's a rom-com. It's like a thriller, but also a romance, but like a cozy one. So I loved I'm at chapter 16 now, and I'm so sad about how fast I'm reading it and how quickly things are happening, because I'm only 60 pages in, but they've already gotten to the manor. We've already established so much. They've met other people who are at these dinner parties, and the mystery is going to happen so soon, and everything's going to, like, this is under 300 pages, and I'm just loving the writing so much. It's occasionally, it's not direct to reader, but there's something about it that has the essence of Finlay Donovan, because it's about an author, because they're talking about crime. It feels a little meta, and just the way, I don't know, the way that it's written is just so fun. It's like, it'll feel like she turns to camera. The author basically turns to us and says something that lets us in on something. I can't explain it. The language is a little sarcastic and over the top. Here's an example, okay? Right when she finds out it's her favorite author, her author is like, oh, I invited you because you're one of my favorite authors. And it says, and then Maggie died, the end. Like, it's just fun. Everything is so exaggerated. And I like it so much more than I guess I thought I would, because I'd never really heard of it, that I don't want to continue. I don't want to keep reading because I don't want it to be over, and I also don't want it to let me down. I don't even know what the mystery is going to be, but I already just, I really like it. I have to pick up Liam from school. I just filmed a video. I have to take him to the dentist, and then I'm going to come home and continue. So I'm glad that I'm taking a little bit of a break. It's not like a one sitting read. I don't know who I was thinking that I was gonna take a pause on my reading when I have half an hour to sit while Liam's in the orthodontist. And I realized I'm reading a second book in one day that I don't know the synopsis of. So I thought, let's read it together, because I don't think I've ever read it. This was on my TBR just because I have so many Lindy Ryans on my TBR for an author that I've never read. It seems kind of strange. And I'm just always down for a weird little novella, which I figured this was. 2 weeks ago, Christine Sinclair's husband slipped off the roof while hanging Christmas lights and fell to his death. Oh no! Desperate to escape her guilt and her grief, Christine packs up her 15-year-old son and the family cat and flees to the cabin they'd reserved deep in the remote Pennsylvania wilds to wait out the holiday. I'm just trying to picture, like, Rob dying, and I'm like, oh, me and Liam are still gonna go on a trip. It isn't long before Christine begins to hear strange noises coming from the forest when she spots a horned figure. That's an elk. Watching from between frozen branches, Christine assumes it's just a forest animal, a moose maybe. Since the property manager warned her about them, said they'd stomp a body so deep into the snow, nobody would find it until spring. But moose don't walk upright like the shadowy figure does, and they don't call Christine's name with her dead husband's voice. I have read this before. It's hard when you read a novella and you know that it's gonna get weird or what's gonna happen in it, because it almost feels like tiring to wait to get to that point when you know that something's gonna happen and the book is so short. It's like, do I really need all of this setup? Just give me the killer moose. She brought their pet cat to the cabin, and I mean, I'm only 30 pages in, but we're talking about evil killer moose, and they brought their cat to the cabin. I fear something will happen to this cat. I cannot be bothered to sit up for this review or put my camera on a tripod. This was perhaps the biggest waste of time of my year. Like, what was it? What on earth? What was this, and why and how? There was so much snow involved in this book, and I don't just mean how they were stuck at the cabin. I mean, the author must have been on a lot of drugs, because this made absolutely no sense. I wasn't interested at the beginning, and then slowly, as the tension started to mount, I was like, okay, maybe. And then it went completely off the rails, and not in like a fun, like, not even like, okay, I can have fun with stupid stuff. This was just stupid and nonsensical. Like, it literally made no sense. And I like a book that has repetition when it uses it with intention. You don't have that many pages. Like, don't fuck with my time. I can't listen to her describing her husband falling off the roof so many times with the exact same words. And I completely understand we are in her mental state, which is grief-filled. Love a grief-centric book. But it's just constant. Every time something is happening, she's thinking, she like has a flashback to losing her husband. And that's really traumatic. But like, what else? What else was the story? There was nothing. There was no substance. There was this scary, apparently, creature in the woods, but that didn't live up to its fullest potential. There was what I thought was leading to a reveal, because often in a horror novella, there's a moment of realization at the end that something was going on the entire time we didn't know about, and I was sure that's what was happening. And then the book just ended. Like, ended mid-scene, mid-sentence, and not in a fun way. Not in a fun way at all. This has to surely have a very low average rating. Like, there's no way this is working for people. 2.73? Is that one of the lowest ratings I've ever seen? Only 3 books that I've ever read have a lower average rating than this, including Nothing But Blackened Teeth, which Goodreads says I gave a 2. That's definitely a 1-star book. This is a 1-star book. Oh, and if you're worried about what happens with the cat, don't read this. In fact, it's worse than you imagine. Not even like in a grotesque way, but in a way that impacts the entire story. It's not just like one scene where you're like, oh fuck, like it's the whole book. The whole book's about the cat somehow. The people who blurbed this, I cast judgment on. And that checks out because Clay McLeod Chapman is back here and he often blurbs my least favorite books. How much should I pay for this? $25? At least this is going well. Maybe that's the balance that the universe knew that I needed today. I can't have a win without a loss. This one, I'm more than halfway through now. I don't think I can stay up and read it. I was going to read it all today, but then I ended up editing an entire video, which I wasn't planning on doing. We have gotten a little flashback that I appreciated, giving us more context about something that we might have wondered about. There's been, the mystery has definitely been presented, and it's not a game, but it feels a little like a game. It's a type of locked door mystery, so there's a bunch of characters being introduced, and even the book itself, or the main character, is saying things to us, saying like, hey, it's time to introduce all the characters in the scene. It is them as authors interpreting the world in that way, as if they're writing a book. So they're living their lives as if they're like a narrative. So that's how it's told. And I just really like it. I'm actually excited to go to bed and like pick it up in the morning. Okay, I've got my next weird color combo shirt on. This Connects thing is the only thing I could really think of that I own that's very clashing on purpose. I actually love this color scheme. I've been putting off talking about this. It's already like 3 p.m. and I need to read other things. So I want to get to those. Oh my gosh. I gave this a 3.75 and it's like a drastic change from how I thought it was going to go. I actually need to open up this package. I'm going to do that while I talk to you because this finally arrived. It's my new Thurman or whatever bullet journal for 2025. I've been eagerly anticipating it because I can't write all of my final plans out. Everything that's in my head, I can't put it down until I have this brand new fresh bullet journal. Where I struggled the most with this was with the romance, honestly, and the mystery. Like both things that I was enjoying and the book was pitched as being the perfect combination of, just ended up disappointing me by the end. Okay. I picked orange. I definitely forgot that's the color I went with. One of the only colors that they've done that I don't already own. I love these and I recommend them, but I don't because they're very expensive. Especially the kind that I get, which is the A4 Plus Master, because I love full page notebooks. I don't know where my scissors are. Okay, stunning. Love it. I'm very excited that it arrived. Actually, you know, I don't know if it's specifically the romance or specifically the mystery. It's just the writing. The writing got worse as the book went on. The things just started to make less sense as far as not just plot. It was more like character interactions, character reactions, going from scene to scene. Things just didn't like make a lot of sense. I was starting to like, I started out liking, I don't want to call it banter between these two because Marcy just like hates this guy. And he doesn't really get it, and he has certain thoughts and feelings of his own that he occasionally shares, but he's also just kind of a playboy and flirts a lot. They're both flirty, but it never feels like their chemistry makes any sense. Like the way that they interact, it's not banter. It's like he is saying funny, snarky things, and she is being bitchy, but like maybe in a playful way. But the actual interactions, like the actual dialogue, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like good chemistry. And I was ignoring that in the beginning because I wanted to like them together so bad, and I wanted to find him, maybe I did find him charming at the beginning. Nothing changed my mind about them. I just came to realize there isn't really a good grasp on their chemistry. And then we were focused on this mystery instead of their romance. And the mystery just wasn't that good. It was compelling at first, but 50 pages before it wrapped up, it felt like I'd had enough of it. But I still was having such a good time for the first half that I can't call this not a 3.75, because it also didn't do anything so horrific, right? The reveal wasn't terrible. The romance wasn't terrible. I just didn't feel anything towards it, but it didn't wrong me. Oh, and let's put them on the page. So here is my colorful page, and here are the two books being inserted in their proper spots. And now this is officially done. Now we need to move on to the brown day. It may feel like it's the same day, but it's not. Look, I changed my sweater and now it's a whole different day. I do own more brown things than this, things that are more evidently brown without stripes of blue and tan, but this actually makes sense with the books that I've selected, and don't come for me with these choices. Because here's the thing, I still really want a great holiday romance. I need it, I'm not gonna lie. So that is what I'm going to do. I saw my friend Jan obsessed with this last week. And Jan and we don't align. In fact, I did an entire video about reading Jan's least favorite things, because a lot of times they turn out to be my favorite things. And then she did the same. So her love of this should deter me, but it didn't, because I saw her love it and I was like, me too. I could love it too. I could. So this is my December darling. This was mentioned to me a couple times on the Instagram poll. And you could look at this and think, that doesn't belong on the brown page. That belongs on the many different colors page. Because look, there are many different colors, but it's significantly brown. Please agree with me, it's significantly brown. So I'm gonna read this. And then the other thing I'm gonna read, I have a good reason, and it is because I wanted to match the Pantone brown. Here's all the books that I've read that are brown, significantly brown. And you can decide for yourself what you think about which ones match the Pantone perfectly. I feel like there's nothing that actually matches it perfectly. Biased looks like it's right, but if you actually put it next to it, it's not. Until It Fades looks right. That's maybe the closest. He started it as too warm. Hacienda is too dark. Foreplay. Okay, Foreplay is our winner. So that's what I would recommend if you're trying to match the Pantone of the year. Now, as far as things on my TBR, again, the one that's all brown and looks like a similar brown is Swallow. But when you pull it over, it does not match. Girlfriend on Mars does not match. None of them are the right brown. Like, they're too cool, they're too warm. I'll Be Gone for Christmas is not significantly brown, but there is a lot of brown. And the brown is pretty close. And also, I just want to read it. So that wasn't to you, that was to me, who's trying to argue my way out of it. But also this should fit on the all the colors page. So I don't know what I'm doing anymore. And I don't really care. I just want to read a holiday romance that goes well. This one is like my favorite holiday movie, The Holiday, where people swap lives. One of them's in a city, one of them's in a small town, and that's gonna be great. And then my December darling, no, I didn't read the synopsis. It has to do with a wedding? Playing the part of my sister's maid of honor is easy even if she's marrying my ex. But playing nice with the best man, an impossible task given our history. Oh, there's a lot of texting in here, and we are from both perspectives. I wonder if there's an audiobook and if it has multiple perspectives, because that could be fun. Yes, okay, I'm gonna do this as an audiobook today, and this is a physical read. And by today, It's already 3 p.m. But these are short. They're each under 300 pages, and I just want to be in the romantic vibe. 50% of the way in, here's my update. It's called My December Darling because the love interest last name is Darling. He's a doctor, she's a nurse. He's called Dr. Darling. It was fun because they had like a gingerbread building contest, and now they're gonna do some Lego building. So just some cutesy, wholesome activities together. It's really short, so there is things happening a little too quickly for me outside of the romance. Like, we have a little bit of contention between this woman and her mother and how she treats her daughters differently and how I don't even fully get the grasp of what the issue is, but they resolved it so early. It was like one of the first scenes of the book. I felt like they were talking about how she wants to be like respected more by her mom, and they were having this heart to heart in the kitchen that was like so something they would never ever have a conversation about, and it felt like so life-changing for their relationship, but like we didn't get to see any issues with their relationship, so it felt like weird. A little like Hallmark, the final scene of one of those movies where everyone has like a realization and they have to have this really emotional, sentimental moment, but it happened at the strangest time. Yeah, so 50% in there has been absolutely no wedding planning, which is a bummer. They're leading up to a wedding. It's coming soon, but like they're not actually doing anything. She did have to like choose songs for an event for like a second, but that's all it was. She was like, I'm choosing songs for this event. And then it was like, oh, now I'm planning this thing, but we don't actually get any of it. There's also like a little bit of workplace stuff because they both work at hospital. She's like a traveling nurse, so she works around at a lot of different places and doesn't want to stay in the small town, but that's where she's working while her sister's wedding is going on because that just makes the most sense for them. And she's just constantly referencing like her time at work, but we don't actually see her at work. She's like, oh, I had a hard day. Oh, I was talking to a patient, and it's all just kind of fine. This was whatever. I don't really have any thoughts about it. I think I'm going to give it like a 3, which is pretty much all romance for me this year. The cover is way too Christmassy for how not Christmassy this felt. Like, besides it taking place during Christmas and that one little like gingerbread scene, it didn't feel like the Christmas vibes that I was looking for at all. It was really low stakes, which is nice. It's a good vibe when you're looking for a holiday romance because it's not like too intense. It's about the coziness. The romance was definitely paced well, like how long it took them to admit they had feelings and how long it took them to sleep together and stuff. But it was boring. Like, this was definitely a boring book. I didn't think the chemistry was really there. And I didn't really like Catalina's constant self-reflection. It got really exhausting. You know when you read a book, like a fantasy book, and it's just like info dump and it's just giving you way too much? This was a character self-reflective dump. Every time Catalina had a conversation with somebody, it would be like half the scene was her talking about herself. She'd have a discussion with someone, she would lash out at someone, she would say something, and then in her head she'd be like, and this is why I push everyone away. This is why I'm the girl who nobody wants to talk to. I act like this because I really want to be close to people. I know that I'm behaving this way because that one time this thing happened to me and it changed my entire personality and I wish I wasn't this way. And it's nice to see somebody who is thoughtful and like is self-aware, but it's to a point that this is 230 pages, and 100 of it was her just like talking about her own personality, flaws, and like good things about herself. And it was just like, what's the plot? There was a really nice speech that she gave at her sister's wedding. It's definitely not dramatic like you might expect in a book where people are dating, like she used to date some guy and now she's dating a best friend and there's all of this drama. But the whole point of this is that it's not that. Like, you know, pretty early on, she barely ever even went on like many dates with this guy. They never slept together. So her sister, it's not like she stole her or anything. There's no tension between the sisters. And then the guy is worried because he's like, oh, my best friend used to date this girl and I hope he's not mad at me. And like, obviously he's not going to be mad at him because it's a warm Christmas story. And also he's marrying her sister. So like, he shouldn't have any weird feelings about somebody dating a girl he barely dated years ago. 3 stars, whatever. This one's going to be for me.
I'm here.
Do you want to know what my book's about?
Yeah. I'll be gone for Christmas by Georgia K. Boone. 2 cities, no plans, endless possibilities.
I'm halfway through. this. You look very dark because there's absolutely no...
You're in front of the only window that has light right now.
Yeah, it doesn't really have any light. This, I think, is like the perfect Christmassy, festive read for me. I'm having quite a good time. It's giving the Christmas vibes. We have the two girls who have swapped homes for the season for different reasons. One of them, actually, let me read this, because one of them just got out of a relationship. And now, okay, it does say it in here. The other woman is going to date that man. Like, that's her love interest in here. Which is fine because they were together since they were like 5 years old. They're kind of like the couple that everyone just expected to be together. And then we're realizing with the character that she's queer. And so she is taking her trip to San Francisco and everybody is so much more open there and she's making all of these friends. And I think it's going to be the other character's sister that she ends up falling for. We've already had a cute like ice skating scene. There's one of the girls, B, is like works with her sister. They have this business and she's been kind of failing at it lately. She's a part of the creative marketing part of it and she's been struggling with that. And so when she goes to this small town, she's like helping some of the small businesses with like their slogans and ideas. And I think it's making her feel creatively fulfilled. And then the other girl is like finding her identity and finding a group of people she identifies with. And I like both of their storylines. I think I'll like both of their romances. So it's going well.
Sounds fun.
Are you having a good time reading it?
Having a great time listening to you read it.
I could read you some passages of it.
Let me read the back.
No. Hey, it says for fans of the holiday. Liam just had his final hockey game before Christmas. It didn't go great. He also is not fully recovered from his illness, so his lungs were causing him a little bit of issues. And just naturally before Christmas, you start to lose players because they're like gone or they're sick at this time of year. And by the end of the game, like none of our letters, none of the A's or Liam was on the ice. So it was a bit of a struggle. And now he has tryouts for spring hockey right after the game. So I think he's going to be tired. I don't know how well it's going to go. There's also tryouts tomorrow. But for me, things are going well because I finished this and I gave it a 4. I liked how much it was a Christmassy vibe. I liked the slow burn nature of the romances. Like we knew the characters pretty early on, but it took a while for them to really get involved. Both couples. And it was more a story of like self-discovery. So it really depends in a romance if I want it to be more of like the character's journey, and especially because we have 2, do they have a strong enough situation going on that I really care about them, feel invested in their growth? I did in here, which is great. I liked all of the side characters. There were quite a few of them, but they were strong enough that I feel like maybe the author is setting us up for like companion novels. So I cared more about their personal experiences than the romance. But I didn't have any issues with any of the romance. I think it was all good. It gave me the vibes I was looking for. It just like wasn't incredible. This is one of my favorite romances of the year though, with a 4. It's really about everybody just gaining confidence, not just the 2 women that we're following who swap places to live, but like the man that she used to be involved with, who's now going to be involved with this girl. Like he needed to find his own things to think about and care about. And also the woman that she was falling for, who was her sister, she had stuff to work through and everybody just had their own individual goals by the end of the book, and I think the author handled them perfectly well. So now we're finally transitioning into the final thing. It's about red. The red book that I'm going to be reading is Everyone This Christmas Has a Secret by Benjamin Stevenson. This is the one of the vlog. There's somebody here. This is the one of the vlog that, oh, I still look crazy. The one that was already on my personal TBR, regardless of somebody recommending it or being chosen for a fun part of the challenge. This one I wanted to read by the end of the year anyway. So it is... I don't know how much, I'll try to let you know how much it spoils the first book, because I know people are concerned about that. But honestly, I don't remember that much about the first book, other than the writing style just being so fun and me having such a good time following Ernest Cunningham and his family in the first book. It's just like a direct-to-reader kind of mystery where he talks to us and everything like, he's aware he's writing a book, basically. And he's like, on page this happens. In a traditional mystery, this is supposed to happen, but here's how I'm going to subvert your expectations with my own personal story. And it was just such a fun read. The Murder on the Train one had to do with him and a bunch of authors. And now this one, I don't actually know if he's like back with his family. Here I am at the Christmas show of world famous magician Ryland Blaze, whose benefactor has been murdered. My suspects are all professional tricksters. The magician, the assistant, the executive, the hypnotist, the identical twin, the counselor, the stagehand. So it's not going to be with his family. So I imagine it won't in fact spoil the first one. We probably won't hear about them at all, especially because it's a novella and he's just trying to solve a mystery. Let's finish out the vlog where we started, in the kitchen office, and fill in our final graphic, having read Everyone This Christmas Has a Secret by Benjamin Stevenson. It looks beautiful on the red page. Unfortunately, what's not beautiful is my thoughts about this. I just felt like it was fine, and I'm gonna give it a 3. So I didn't end this video with another 5-star, but I did complete the #1 goal, which was to read for the aesthetics. So ultimately, my thoughts about this are, it wasn't the perfect Christmas vibe. If you're gonna have a short story, especially a spin-off, like a little extra part of the series you're writing, the point of it is to embody something. So if it's not gonna be so Christmassy, what was the point? Why did you make me pick it up and read it if you weren't gonna give me the Christmas vibes and set it and release it all around Christmas? There was like a little mention of Christmas occasionally, but it didn't feel like a festive story. There was like one moment, well, I will say, like, there's these advent calendar moments where each chapter starts with one, or he gets little notes about that lead to something. But other than that, and one little mention of like a nod to the reader saying, this person died, but they were in a small pool of blood. This is a Christmas story after all. It just wasn't very Christmassy. It had the elements that I enjoyed from the first 2 books in the series, especially the first one, that I was just so enamored with the writing style. That was a constant wink to the reader. It continued to be fun, but if I wasn't super invested in the characters or the mystery because it's so short, that's all that I'm like holding on to, is the writing style. It can't be more than a 3. But we did have plenty of those moments, and that's where this author definitely shines if you're into that kind of thing. It'll say things like, there are twins in this story, and you can only introduce twins in a mystery if you're gonna do it this way, and it's cheap for the reader if you're gonna make them swap places and not tell them. So I like that. And then there was one moment where he said something about a weapon. He was like, there was a sword hanging above the door. In a traditional mystery book, this would be revealed to be the weapon later on, but I'm not gonna do that to you. And while I don't think this spoils the mystery that happens in the first or second book, he doesn't reflect on it in any way. There are relationships. There are certain dynamics between people that possibly could get ruined if you just pick this up without reading the other 2, but by the time you pick up the first one, like, you might not care, you might not remember who's talking to who and how their relationship was built. But Ernest is really protecting someone, or he's trying to find out the truth about someone close to him, someone who's being accused of a murder. It's like the typical cozy mystery style where you have to find out the culprit so somebody you know isn't implicated. And I liked that exploration of caring about this person and helping them, but also being willing to admit that they did do it if that's how the evidence was presented. Like, he's just a very clear-headed individual, and that makes for a fun writing style. I just didn't get super invested in the actual mystery, and it didn't feel very festive. But whatever. That was my last read of the year, and the graphic is done. The graphic is beautiful. It makes me very happy, and I hope it does for you as well. I have nothing else to say. Happy Christmas. I hope you're having a really good festive season, and I will see you for the next, 12 days, perhaps. Love you a lot as a friend, and I'll see you later.